Okay, so welcome to my pantry. My wife and kids are asleep, and I'm recording in the pantry so that I don't make too much noise. Alright, in this video we're going to learn about intellectual property. So intellectual property, there's two types of property. There's intellectual property and there's real property. So real property is like all this stuff around me, right? It's real. I can touch it. I can hold it. It makes noise. It's physical. It's real. That's why we call it real estate. Real estate. It's real property, right? So that's real property. The other category is intellectual property. Intellectual property, you can't hold intellectual property, right? Like, you know, I could tell you about Nirvana's song In the Pines, right? And you could hear it. I could burn it to a CD. I could burn Nirvana's In the Pines to a CD, and you could hold the CD. But what is of value on that CD, you can never hold that. It's the words, it's the rhythm, it's the tone, it's the lyrics, right? And so that's intellectual property. It's things like songs, screenplays, books, you know, movies, software, chemistry, you know, some chemical compounds and things like that could be all intellectual property. And so it's you know, the ideas, anything that's an idea, that's intellectual property. So we break intellectual property down into three categories. We have copyrights, trademarks, and patents. And a trademark is the easiest thing to understand. So here's a trademark, the BMW trademark. It's the mark by which they do trade. And so they own this mark. That's a trademark. They own it. You can't use it. And if you buy something with this mark on it, you know it's created by a company called Bavarian Motor Works. And that company has brand value, has brand recognition. People have a certain association with this mark, just like they have an association with all marks. And so if you're getting a BMW automobile or a BMW toaster, you can be assured that it has the finest German engineering possible. and if anybody was able to use this mark, then it wouldn't mean anything, because people put it on all kinds of crap and it just wouldn't matter. So a trademark is a mark by which you do trade. And you could register a trademark with the United States Patent Trademark Office, USPTO. And so trademarks can also be slogans. Right, so the ultimate driving machine, right? Like they own that mark also, ultimate driving machine, and so that could also be a trademark. All right, so that's trademarks. Copyright, like I said, a copyright is for things which are not trademarks and not patents. So a copyright would be for a screenplay, a book, a novel, you know, software, music. And getting a copyright is pretty easy. Again, you just go to USPTO, US Copyright Office, there we go. And copyright.gov is where you go for this. So let me just distinguish that because I said that incorrectly. USPTO is where you go for patents and trademarks, Patent and Trademark Office, and here's the Copyright Office. And so the Copyright Office, you could really easily, for 20 bucks, upload a copy of something and give them $20, and then you own the copyright on that. Automatically you own a copyright on anything you create. Anything you create of intellectual property, like this lecture right now, I automatically own the copyright on that. But proving it is more difficult. So if I upload this video to the Copyright Office and get a copyright, and then if somebody else claims it as theirs, I can say, well, I have an official copyright. And so it allows me to more easily prove that I created that material. And the last bit is a patent, and a patent is for inventions. So that would be like, you know, schematics or blueprints, or, you know, I invent a better mousetrap or invent a new engine. I would get a patent on that. So all three of these things provide you with ownership of intellectual property. Okay, so that's what all three of those things do. And the reason a society wants to protect ownership of intellectual property is it gives people incentive to invest. And all intellectual property is for a limited amount of time. You can only own it for a certain period of time, like 100 years. And so, you know, a company wouldn't have the incentive to invest in creating software if then anybody could take that software and start selling it, just make a copy and start selling it. Or a musician might, well, musicians do it because they usually love the art. But it's the ownership of that intellectual property, the protection, the ability to say, I created this, nobody else can use it unless they buy it from us. That's what allows the company to regain their profits. But then after 100 years, that protection wears off. And so I use the example of In the Pines, their Nirvana song. Originally that was a Leadbelly song, but that slipped into the public domain. So the public domain is anybody owns it, right? Everybody owns it in the public domain. So that's the public domain. So the last thing I want to teach you about are Creative Commons. So Creative Commons provides shades of intellectual property protection. So you could put a license on something, and then you'd go here to do it, and it's free, and then you could share whatever you've created with that Creative Commons license on it. So if I went to like freemusicarchive.org, and then I looked for I'm just going to search for Tracky Birthday, and this guy's got some hip tunes. And then I looked at one of these songs, let me just look at all these. I think this guy, I read his little bio, used to be a drummer for the Mickey Mouse Club. So Newish Disco is a nice song. And I can see here it's got a copyright, Creative Commons notice. Attribution, non-commercial, share alike. So I have to give him credit if I use this song, and it's only for non-commercial purposes, and I have to put the same license on it, which is attribution, non-commercial, whatever I create. So somebody couldn't take it from my creation and think, oh, I could use this anywhere. I have to put the same one on there. So that's what a Creative Commons license is. You get a Creative Commons license by going to Creative Commons, and you just quickly fill out a form, they give you a license, and then you could share it in different places, like here, musicians share music, and you could tell people how to use it. And since I've given Tracky Birthday attribution, and since this is for non-commercial purposes, we could play his music. Okay, so here's why the music wasn't working. I've got a little notice up here, and it says a blocked plugin. I'm going to allow plugins on Free Music Archive. Now let's check it out.